Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dharma podcast. In today's episode, we will analyze the 2006 Bollywood movie Rang De Basanti and show how it is explicit communist propaganda disguised as entertainment. Rang De Basanti is quite an impressive movie shot on a lavish budget and has a compelling screenplay. It was produced by Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra and Roni Screwvala. It was directed also by Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra. It was co-written once again by Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra, Kamlesh Pandey and Rensil De Silva. The screenplay for its climax was written by Amir Khan, who feels unsafe in India. In one sense, Rang De Basanti is the 21st century equivalent of Diwar, which is another legendary propaganda movie made in the 1970s. The basic premise and plotline of Rang De Basanti is rather straightforward. It is a courageous battle against political corruption in India. This battle is fought by a bunch of aimless Delhi-based youth who find purpose, fulfillment and death in their crusade against India's corrupt political establishment. This plot is as old as human civilization itself, and it will succeed each time it is narrated well. And Rang De Basanti does narrate it well, except the fact that it is open communist propaganda disguised as a fight against political corruption. This propaganda begins almost immediately as soon as the opening credits begin to roll. We are shown the iconic revolutionary freedom fighter Bhagat Singh, played by Siddharth. Bhagat Singh tells the British jailer, one revolutionary is getting acquainted with another as he closes the book. Then the camera shows Siddharth closing Lenin's biography, and then he marches to the gallows with a proud and brave smile on his lips. Next, we are shown another revolutionary freedom fighter, Ramprasad Bismil. He is chanting verses from the Karma Yoga chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The symbolism that begins at this point is relentlessly hammered throughout the movie. Cut to the present. We see a young British journalist named Sue. Sue works for a news channel and its name is revealed in the large signboard behind the reception desk. The camera lingers on the name for about 3 minutes and we clearly see the name, World Vision. But in the real world, World Vision is a global Christian evangelical NGO. It is a missionary organization working to convert Hindus and non-Christians to Christianity. That is how propaganda is done. Throughout the movie, at strategic plot points, through one-liners, props, backdrops, dressing and dialogue. Sometimes the propaganda is subtle, sometimes it's brazen. But Sue is actually more than a journalist. She is the granddaughter of a man named McKinley, and McKinley is the same British jailer who had hanged Bhagat Singh and Ramprasad Bismil. Remember the opening scene? He is the guy. But McKinley is also deeply moved by the unyielding courage of Bhagat Singh and others and their unflinching patriotism. But as a devout Christian, McKinley repeatedly begs for forgiveness from Jesus Christ. And then he records his experiences in India in his personal diary. Many years later, after his death, Sue reads her grandfather's journal and she is also deeply moved by it. And now, Sue wants to make a movie on these great Indian revolutionary freedom fighters. And this is quite a revelation by itself. Here is a former colonizer returning once more to India to redeem its former subject race, which has forgotten its own heroes. This colonial undertone is subtle, but what it basically says is this: look what a mess these bloody Indians have created for themselves after we left. Finally, Sue lands in Delhi, where another colonial motive is immediately vindicated. Sue watches a policeman taking a bribe in public and she is obviously shocked. And Siddharth, who plays the modern day Bhagat Singh, tells her with a smile, with an ironic smile, "Welcome to India." This message, this obvious message, goes out to the granddaughter of the former colonizer. India is equal to corruption. Now let's fast forward in the movie. Sue is looking to cast some actors for her film, and she finds the following people. The first is a man named Daljit Singh, played by Amir Khan. He is cast as Chandrashekhar Azad. Then she finds Karan, played by Siddharth. He is cast as Bhagat Singh in a movie. Then she finds Aslam, played by Kunal Kapoor. He is cast as the freedom fighter Ashfaquallah Khan. And Sukram, played by Sharman Joshi, in the role of Shivram Rajguru. Now, these are four jobless youths in the prime of their youth, constantly whining and cribbing about India. Sue also finds a fifth actor for her film much later in Rang De Basanti, and all five of them gradually undergo a profound transformation as they read Sue's script and begin practicing their lines. The process of their transformation is a dramatic device used for effective propaganda in Rang De Basanti. And Sue's filmmaking project is straight off the communist template of using literature, art, drama, poetry, and cinema as brainwashing tools in order to provoke violent revolution and to overthrow constitutionally elected governments. The full implications of this tactic will chill us to the spine when we recall the fact that throughout its bloody history, not a single communist regime has come to power through free and fair elections. For example, take all these communist countries or former communist countries: Russia, China, Vietnam, Cuba, and the former Eastern European bloc. In all these communist countries, communists had captured power through extraordinary violence against their own people, and once they came to power, they committed industrial scale genocide once again against their own countrymen. Remember this historical reality when and if you watch Rang De Basanti. And a good portion of the scenes showing Sue's interactions with the four young losers are shot in India Habitat Center in Delhi. And India Habitat Center was another expensive watering hole of the leftists. But while the actual shooting took place at the India Habitat Center, what Rang De Basanti really shows us is the campus of the Jawaharlal Nehru University. And director Rakesh Omprakash Mehra simply can't get enough of JNU. The camera captures every nook and corner of the place, and we also see the cheap local canteen out there on the campus. This is actually Rang De Basanti's tribute to the infamous Ganga Dhaba at JNU. Ganga Dhaba was the favorite hangout of both budding and veteran communist traitors spouting Marxism over cigarettes, chai, and charas. And the whole environment of this campus also sends us a message loud and clear. Revolution is not only heroic and fashionable, it is sexy. And this revolution is actually a war against the Indian nation from within the Indian soil. every illegal activity on this university campus is a justification and a celebration of precisely this war against the Indian nation. Illegal activities like spray painting the campus walls with ugly revolutionary graffiti at night, drinking and smoking ganja in public, vandalism, and indulging in behavior that endangers lives. And the rival student leader emerges. He objects to all these communist hooligans on the JNU campus, and because he objects to them, he is shown as a regressive and violent, uncouth Hindutva activist. His name is Lakshman Pandey and it is played by Atul Kulkarni. And he is the fifth character who plays the role of Ramprasad Bismil in Su's film. But there's a problem. Lakshman Pandey cannot play Bismil as long as he is a Hindutva activist. So he has to thoroughly and consciously reform himself before he can be transformed into a communist porn star. And so here is the final cast of characters. First we have Aslam. He is the stereotypical educated and urban Muslim. He is dressed like a drug-addicted JNU variant of Che Guevara. Aslam's father is a Dara Hua Musalman. Aslam's brother is a Hindu-hating fanatic. You know why? He hates Hindus precisely because his dad is a Dara Hua Musalman. Beat that if you can. Next in the line we have Karan. Karan is the frustrated and whining brat of a filthy rich and corrupt businessman, and his father's business is to fix sleazy defense deals. Then we have another character, Ajay Rathod. He is a flight lieutenant in the Indian Air Force and he is in the close circle of the four Delhi losers. And this friend, Flight Lieutenant Ajay Rathod, is played by Madhavan and he is killed in a plane crash. He is flying a faulty MiG aircraft which was purchased due to high-level corruption in defense procurement at the government level. And this corruption is directly linked to the Indian Defense Minister himself. And Ajay's death in the plane crash is a crucial turning point in the movie and it deeply affects all the four Delhi losers. It not only affects them, they now discover their purpose in life other than painting graffiti on walls and smoking ganja. And this purpose is to take on and battle the corrupt Indian government. And this is exactly when they begin to transform themselves into the present day avatars of Chandrashekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, Shivram Rajguru and so on. And it is at this point that Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra's communist propaganda opens its wings wide. The huge commercial success of Rang De Basanti would have been impossible if it had not been glamorized by presenting a twisted narrative of these great revolutionary heroes of our freedom struggle. So what is the truthful narrative of these revolutionaries? Let's begin with Bhagat Singh. Bhagat Singh was a declared admirer of Lenin, but his admiration was based entirely on the flattering propaganda literature of that communist monster. Number two, Bhagat Singh advocated armed struggle to overthrow an oppressive foreign power which was ruling India, which is a colonial British. But whom did Lenin overthrow in his violent coup to acquire political power in Russia? Whose blood did he spill? The answer, the blood of his own countrymen. This is a fundamental contrast between Bhagat Singh and Lenin. Bhagat Singh was in his 20s when he was hanged, and he proudly died for India and for her freedom. Lenin died for no higher cause. He ruled like a despot and a tyrant and died like one. Now, let's come to the next piece of propaganda. And this is perhaps the worst propaganda of all in Rang De Basanti. It is in fact the core of Rang De Basanti. It basically says that there is no difference between the constitutionally elected government of independent India and the colonial British rule. And so, all methods, all tactics to overthrow this constitutionally elected government are valid. They are actually acts of freedom struggle. But the Indian government in Rang De Basanti is not just any government. It is a specific government. It is the BJP-led government, the NDA government, which was headed by former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And Rang De Basanti wages a cinematic war against this government. And now, let's look at how this movie presents this government. First, it is not a coincidence that in Rang De Basanti, the Defence Minister of India has the Brahmin surname Shastri. But just to be clear, this cinematic Shastri, he bears an uncanny resemblance to former Defence Minister George Fernandes, who was forced to resign thanks to the sleazy journalism practiced by Tehelka. And it is also not a coincidence that the same Tehelka, it published a flattering picture of Rang De Basanti's poster on the cover page of its second anniversary issue published in 2006, the same year that movie was released. This is how the leftist ecosystem operates, and it operates at levels that we simply can't imagine. Then we come to the typical Dara Hua Musalman played by Om Puri. He is made to say these lines, "ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत बुरा वक्त है. These are really bad times for us Muslims." But what he is really saying is this: a BJP-led government is bad for Muslims. That is a line in an apparently fictional movie, remember. But it was only a matter of time before this fiction became reality. In 2015, the same Amir Khan who played the role of DJ in Rang De Basanti launched an unprovoked attack against the Narendra Modi government by declaring that he felt unsafe as a Muslim in India. Remember the narrative? Dara Hua Musalman. This is a classic real-life example of actors imitating their roles in movies. The unreal is real and the real is diabolical. The next item of propaganda in Rang De Basanti is its depiction of Hindutva. And this is where the movie really bears its poisoned fangs. The character of Lakshman Pandey, the Hindutva guy, before Lakshman Pandey discovers his inner Ramprasad Bismil, he is a symbol of militant Hindutva. His surname Pandey is indicative of a dominant North Indian caste. He is shown as violent and boorish and ill-mannered. He lacks civility. We are shown that he is crude, and we are also shown that his uncivility is rooted in his rustic Hindu cultural background, and therefore he is a misfit in JNU. In other words, Lakshman Pandey, the Hindutva activist, is a hopeless case. And this is when the white British woman Sue, she steps in as Lakshman Pandey's savior. She awakens the inner Ramprasad Bismil sitting inside him. She is a 21st century messenger of the 19th century white man's burden. this is a burden of properly civilizing the native, unclean, ugly Hindu. And Su performs this civilizing mission by healing the hostility between Lakshman Pandey and the 4 other jobless slobs. But Pandey still has a long way to go before becoming fully civilized. And that moment occurs when he is violently disillusioned with his Hindutva party ruling the country. When Lakshman Pandey confronts his mentor in the party about the MIG plane crash, his mentor has him beaten up by goons. And we in the audience get this message. You see, this is how the BJP treats its most loyal Karyakartas. Lakshman Pandey leaves the party. Lakshman Pandey's clothes are tattered and he is bleeding and bruising, and then he is offered ganja by the rich drug addict Karan, played by Siddharth. It is a great moment of bonding. The chocolate boy Siddharth and the rugged rustic Atul Kulkarni sharing a drag of weed. But ganja brings only temporary relief to Pandey. He still has to take that decisive step before he is fully cured of the disease called Hindutva. And that decisive step is his apology given to Aslam. And with that, Lakshman Pandey is now thoroughly civilized. That is, he becomes secular. And with that, a new communist porn star is born. It is truly remarkable the levels at which the Sikh propaganda operates in Rang De Basanti. Lakshman Pandey is now shown as a good guy in the wrong camp. But before he can fully belong to the right camp, that is the left camp, he must consciously abandon and disown his previous life by apologizing for it. This process is exactly like a newly converted Hindu eating beef and getting circumcised. It is also like Stalin's fake trials, where the innocent criminal was made to publicly confess to crimes that he did not commit. Rang De Basanti is cinematic subterfuge and subversion at its degenerate worst. But Pandey's disillusionment with his Hindutva ideology and his party has actually occurred much earlier. Like the other 4 JNU losers, he is also horrified by the MIG plane crash. He is shocked to see that his own nationalist party heads a government engaged in sleazy and corrupt defense deals. And this opens up another layer of secularist or communist propaganda, that the BJP is a party of rich and unscrupulous businessmen. And in Rang De Basanti, Karan's father is one such rich and unscrupulous businessman. His name is Rajnath Singhania, played by Anupam Kher. And he is the same businessman who brokered the defense deal that got Ajay Rathod killed in the plane crash. And now, it is time for the grand revolution in Rang De Basanti. And this revolution is inspired not by Chandrashekhar Azad or Ramprasad Bismil or Bhagat Singh, but by Vladimir Lenin. And at this point, the communist handbook in Rang De Basanti unfolds in full color. So far in the movie, the ground has already been prepared by equating the BJP government with a colonial British rule. But that colonial British rule has already redeemed itself through the character of Su, remember? But the BJP government and the Hindutva ideology are beyond redemption, and so the only solution is that they have to be overthrown. The director Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra leaves nothing to the imagination by making this message explicit. This is in a scene where a decision is taken to assassinate India's defense minister. The losers have now turned into hardcore, violent communist revolutionaries. But they don't see themselves as revolutionaries. So, how do they see themselves as? Here is a conversation in the movie that gives you the answer. They have already planned to assassinate India's defense minister, and this is how the conversation goes. But we are not murderers, but they are. Notice the collective plural, they. They meaning the people in the nationalist BJP government. And at that moment, the scene slowly unfolds. The revolutionaries dramatically transform into the modern day versions of Bhagat Singh, Chandrashekhar Azad, Rajguru, Sukhdev, and Ramprasad Bismil. Remember that in the 20th century, they are not revolutionaries but freedom fighters. And at this point, the propaganda is completely nailed in. What follows this scene is an open declaration of one of the worst elements of communism. It is an ideology which actively encourages the Communist Party member to betray and murder members of his own family. This is exactly what Karan Singhania does. He shoots his own father, Rajnath Singhania, in cold blood. Remember, this murder of your own father is shown as an act of freedom struggle. And now we get to the climax of Rang De Basanti. It is completely ridiculous, but it is also dangerous because it takes itself so seriously. The climax scene was apparently conceived and written by Amir Khan. Now the five losers, including Lakshman Pandey, they storm and take over the headquarters of the All India Radio using a few country-made pistols. And then Karan sits behind the microphone in the radio station and delivers a long live broadcast of communist rhetoric. The whole scene is surreal on many levels, and it ends with the death of the five losers. But then their death is also a vindication of their alleged freedom struggle. The climax in Rang De Basanti is a piece of pathetic cinema. But Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra is not doing cinema out here, he is doing propaganda. The radio station has been deliberately chosen in the movie for a historical and emotional reason. It was from a radio station in Moscow that the victory of the great October Communist Revolution of 1917 was first announced to the world. Here is another little known fact of history. In the early 1950s, Indian communist leaders like Shripad Dange, P.C. Joshi and others had actually planned a dramatic, violent takeover of the All India radio station in Bombay. They wanted to broadcast that a Soviet-style communist revolution had finally arrived in India. And guess what? This radio broadcast in Bombay was supposed to be made by an elder uncle of Karan Thapar. But that plan was a grand flop, and so we don't need to spend any time on that. Propagandists like Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra therefore had to console themselves by showing this communist fantasy on screen by taking over the AIR station in Delhi. Another suggestion is also embedded in the radio station climax, that the alleged freedom struggle shown in Rang De Basanti is a sign of a future communist glory in India. Because the fundamental premise of Indian communists has always been this: India is an illegitimate state which has no right to exist. This is the sum and substance of the propaganda in Rang De Basanti. With that, we can close this podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, do consider subscribing to the Dharma podcast. Do like and share our episodes and support our work. Thank you.